wonderful degree, and I was sitting in the day we went to, my parents moved to Indiana, didn't tell me, moved to Indiana, and I was sitting in the new hospital where my dad was working, looking at a picture of all the people on the wall, and thinking, man, I have this wonderful degree, but I don't have a job. I distinctly remember it. I have a degree from Princeton University, but no job. What in the world am I going to do? So it can be an overwhelming experience for you to get all this training in high school and college, and you may not know, okay, well, how do I actually, where do I go next? How do I get to the next step, past the introduction job, past the internship job, to actually doing what I want to do? Do I even know what I want to do? I've been in class for the past 16 years of my life. How do I figure out what I want to do? So, and what do I want to do? If what I want to do is wrong, how do I know that? And all these things. So we want to, put you on friendly territory today. And so you know who to go to also when you have questions. Can anyone welcome us, open us up with prayer, please?
Let's bow our heads and pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for letting us be able to come here today. Please bless the people speaking for us, and please let us all be able to understand how they've led up to their careers, and please let us be able to take the information and keep it within us, keep it in the back of our minds, so we may be able to decide and plan for our own futures as well. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Panelists, come on up. And got a lot of feedback last year, so I think Rennie, you were one of the panelists. Rudy, Stephen, Inga, Ashley, George, and Brian, and Emery, you want to be on the panel? Maybe? Think about it. All right. So this panel it's meant to be a spectrum of different career paths and even career destinations to encourage you all about, like I mentioned, it's not a linear line from point A to point B.
Okay. We'll have another mic, Will, you can have one and we can pass one around on this side. It's actually really loud.
And so also, I want to remind you all that there is a virtual version of what we're doing. So I talked to you all this morning about Austin, who wants to come to church. He sees our services and he wants to come back to church because of it. So his mother, Shauna, emailed me and asked us to pick him up. So this will, Rennie's going to try to record it specifically for Hope, who just left because she wants to hear it. Anybody else wants to hear it. So you all are also a virtual ministry, you may not even know it. So we were trying to shorten it from last year. I gave a few people the ability to respond and tell where your careers, what your kind of inspiration was and your hopes and how you ended up where you were. Did y'all get that email? And y'all saw it? Okay, so at least y'all saw Stephen's, Inga's, who else? Brian. I think there was a fourth person responding. So at least you kind of saw theirs. But just because not everybody got to do it, you may not have seen it, let's just spend 1 minute just saying whatever you think is important and your kind of punchline line of advice to the young people, and then we can open up the questions. Okay?
So, people know me, my name's Ashley, and I have 2 college degrees. My first one is in psychology, and after I graduated, I worked in psychological research for about 5 years. And then I went back to school, got a nursing degree, and when I was getting my first degree, I was pre-med, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something after I graduated, but I wasn't sure what. So then I got a nursing degree, and practiced nursing for only like 2.5 years, and then now I'm a homeschool teacher.
Hi, my name is Inga Gerard, and I kind of knew what I wanted to do since I was little, but it was also become a teacher, that is. And my parents were teachers and all that, and they were trying to convince me not to be the teacher, but I just saw myself there. And that's how it went. And then moving from one country to another, I became elementary school teacher, but what I loved about it is that I could teach math, language, arts, music, art, PE, like science, social, everything, which is like, I love everything. Like, so if for people who need variety, there is variety. Plus, you are a psychologist, counselor, and many other things, which sometimes are overwhelming. So anyways, so I still love that job, but we can talk about that later. It's kind of burnout is high in medical profession and teaching professions, that is high. So learning how to take care of yourself is a big one.
Hi, my name is Rudy Herrera. I am a physician. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was initially in college. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, maybe do some social sciences, but I knew I loved science. Anyway, so I went to medical school. I did a kind of a general family medicine residency, did a sports medicine residency, then I did a paid fellowship. But I can remember, like Will, at this stage of your life, I'm not sure, between maybe 18 and 22, you're kind of feeling like pressure about this is the rest of my life. This decision is going to be, but I'm going to reassure you that you will go through evolutions, right? And so the stress you're feeling, it's not permanent, right? It's self-imposed. My point was, I remember sitting in my apartment, like, am I ever going to be a physician? Dreaming about these things, about wanting to do this. Will I ever get in? Will I get accepted? And yes, I did, but in your 20s is different than your 30s or your 40s, etc. So you're going to go through these iterations in your life. You're constantly evolving. So the self-imposed stress that you have right now is okay. You're going to get through this, and you're going to succeed, right? And I just want to reassure you that. Right? It's not the rest of your life. You're not doomed, right? And so that's my only kind of pearl of wisdom, but there's other things I'd like to offer, but I just remember where you guys are at, so take a deep breath. It's going to get better.
Hi, I'm Steven. I'm a software engineer, and that wasn't always the case. Growing up in a Caribbean household, the common, profession there is to be a physician. So I started out majoring in microbiology and molecular biology. Long story short, 2 years into the program, it just wasn't working out. I ended up in academic probation, and then I went back into the things that I remember my parents used to tell me I was good at, and I prayed about it. And then I ended up going into software engineering. Specifically, I majored in computer engineering. And everything just clicked from there. So now I'm enjoying it. I love it. There's pros and cons, like I say, but this is about me. You can ask all the questions.
Good afternoon. Hi, everybody. Hi. Okay, so my name is George Romney. Romy is my son. I'm Romeo's dad. And just a little bit of a background. I grew up in Kenya. And so growing up, people didn't talk about money, right? So you don't talk about money. If you have it, you keep quiet. If you talk about it, somebody might think, oh, you're boasting. Yeah, yes. Oh, did you hear? They're talking about money, right? So, growing up and then moving into the United States, I felt challenged. I realized that really, if you are broke,
this system, the system doesn't work for you. All right, so fast forward. I became a nurse. My wife joined me from Kenya, and now I'm starting a family. Young man starting a family, I need money fast, right? So became a nurse, so I'll be flexible and also have time for my family. And like Ashley, right? Yeah, so I did, as of today, I'm about 13 years now licensed as a nurse. And then we enjoy traveling a lot. So I travel, I do see a lot of encounter, wealth, and class, and challenge, right? So, for example, we have been to Miami, and when you're in Miami, you see a lot of yachts, right? A lot of rich people with, pulling in, and you say, why not us, right? And I realized one thing I was missing is, hey, the understanding of money, right? A lot of our families don't. So I became a tax-free retirement strategist. That's what I do now. I pretty much just travel and talk to families about how to use, for example, life insurance to build wealth. Other people do, right? Wealthy people do for wonderful reasons that we don't have time to talk about. But that's what I do. It's so fulfilling. I enjoy money talk. I was telling my son that, hey, if it is possible, one of our prayers should be, let us not arrive into life as adults broke. I hope, you remember that always. And so whatever we do prayerfully, let's just remember to give God the glory. So again, I'm a nurse, and I'm also a financial professional. Those are two things, that's what I do. And my wife is a doctor pharmacist. Thank you.
I'm Anna Marie. I started off doing psychology because I wanted to become a psychologist, but in order to get to the States, my sister said, you'll have to do nursing. So you can pay your way through. After you get your associates, you can pay your way through and become a psychologist, or not. And 2 years into nursing school, I really liked it. And I was a nurse, well, I am still a nurse. I've been a nurse for almost 20 years. I did stay home for several years, and after I had kids, I worked very part-time because I wanted to be home with the kids. But I will say to the ladies sitting in the benches, you don't have to choose something for life. Keep your options open. What I mean by that is I think it's important as women that you decide that you have a career, because life happens and you never know what life is going to throw at your way. So I do think education is important. Having said that, the reason I say keep your options open, I was able to work very PRN, like once or twice a month, to keep my license current and still stay home with my family, so I didn't have to choose. So I just want to encourage you to keep your options open and to see where God leads you, because as Rudy mentioned, as you evolve, your desires may evolve, you may evolve. But I love being a stay-at-home mommy, and I love being a nurse. Both are very fulfilling.
My name is Brian Otieno. My career is an interesting journey. I'm the kind of person you don't tell, no, you cannot do it. So when I used to watch The Apprentice when I was in high school, a lot of The Apprentice. Then I figured out in organizations there's something called human resources when I was there then. And then I made in my mind, I want to become a human resources manager. But then I missed the cut to get into college by 2 points in Kenya when I did my exams. And my dad sat me down and he was like, okay, son, what do you want to do? I told him I want to become a human resources manager. And he's like, how do you want to do it? Then I told him, give me 1 week. So I did research and found a school in a neighboring country that has the bachelor's in that course, but then you can't get to it until you do 2 more years of high school, which is called advanced A-levels, basically, advanced high school. So I was like, I'm going to enroll for the 2 years so I can still achieve my goal and get direct entry into that bachelor's program. And I did that for the 2 years and went into Makerere, did my bachelor's in HR, and qualified. I started working. So I came to the US with that same bachelor's from Uganda, and somebody's like, you know what, bachelors from Africa don't work in the US. I'm like, I don't take no's for answers. So I started researching and figured out I can convert my bachelor's into the US system, which I did, ended up with a higher GPA, and certified in the US as a professional HR manager in here. I did another bachelor's course, and trust me, I started rising through my career. But one thing I figured out is, Anne-Marie said, education is important, but be flexible. So you start having family and you start having things. At some point, I ended up in the banking industry, processing highly classified checks. I would print live checks and we ship them to customers. The statements you see in your doors, I would do that. It became so good in that field. But my goal was, I still want to go back to HR. So I hid my bachelor's from the company. So I was using my high school certificates. And one day someone bumped on my resume, and it's like, wait a minute, why are you printing checks when you're supposed to be managing or payroll? And they had a job open, and I ended up being a compensation specialist. And from that time in Chase, my life has never been the same again. So one thing when you go through your career choices is, if you have your eye on a goal, don't take no for answers. Keep pushing.
Sorry. I'm on the side because I might have to run back for the media, but I go by Rennie or Rini or Renee. My trade is software engineering. Growing up, I loved everything in school. Every subject, I just really enjoy learning. It's just something that fascinated me. I wanted to be an artist at one time. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to do everything at different stages of life as I'm learning. And that's one characteristic that I noticed about myself. I just enjoy learning new things. But the one thing that was consistent throughout my entire elementary, middle school, high school career is just understanding how things work. So at the time, I didn't really know much about engineering. I knew more about just the sciences. So like, why do I love colors? Well, it's light, you know, how does light work? You know, you get to physics and then you start jumping all around, and I get to the point where I love math, that was my favorite subject. How in the world does this calculator work to do what I'm doing here? And I wanted to understand what goes on in the inside, and then you realize it's just some plastic and batteries. What's going on with all this plastic and batteries? And before I know it, it led to software. And also playing video games, I'm like, why is the screen showing all this stuff? What's going on? How does this little box do what it does with electricity? So long story short, all that curiosity, what was consistent for me was technology and engineering and the sciences. And as a Christian, like, what was really consistent for me, what really draws me to really Christianity is knowing that God is a creator, and creating is like his signature. And everything we look from the stars above to the ground on the earth to what humans create, we're just a little reflection of God. We just want to create. So that's why I chose software engineering. And just to keep it short, I just love creating stuff. You're welcome.
So last year I didn't give my path because I think I feel like most of y'all knew, but Ashley's told me you should definitely tell your story. So in 1 minute. So I think it's important because my story kind of illustrates what we talk a lot about in terms of when does it become so hard that you decide to quit versus when is it so hard that you just decide, I'm just going to keep praying about it and keep doing it. So essentially my path was of pure grit and determination when people told me no, especially people that I thought were racist, to be honest with you, and believing in two major miracles that happened during my career path. So the first one was, I went to school in Oklahoma City at a school that was known to have a historical racism. It was called Heritage Hall. The name itself was racist. So I knew I was smart, I knew I was doing well in school, but I kept getting passed over for all of these internships, these opportunities for high schoolers to get extra kind of exposure to special camps at Duke and all over the country that would allow them to get to nice schools. It wasn't until, Mom and I, they'll remember this, we were sitting at dinner one day and a man sitting next to us heard me talking and he said, "You're really smart. I am one of the people in the area who represents Harvard. You should apply to our school one day." And I was probably 13. And we were at a restaurant. He was at a restaurant. He just heard us talking. That was the first time I had ever been encouraged that I was smart. And I stuck onto that and I said, "You know what, Mom, Dad? I'm going to Harvard." And sure enough, my dad took us up there, took me up there to Harvard, Princeton, Yale, Dartmouth, and one Thanksgiving weekend when I was 16 or 17, and I loved it, and I decided I wanted to go to Princeton, and that's where I went. And the issue of determination was my school never recognized me. Even when we graduated, they never told me I was salutatorian, and that I was half a grade off of being valedictorian in my class. They never told me. My parents are sitting here as witnesses. We didn't have the opportunity to bring our family. I was the first black salutatorian in my entire school's history, and I didn't know that. So that determination has fueled so much of my desire to never give up throughout my career. Even in college, my college told me, and I was at the #1 school in the country at that time, they told me, "You can't be a doctor. You don't have the grades." I said, "I'm all right, I'm gonna prove you wrong." So ended up becoming a doctor. My best friend in med school my best friend from college who went to another medical school said, "You can't match into the top specialty." At that time, the top specialty was urology. He wanted to do cardiology. I want to do urology. He said, "No, your numbers aren't good enough." And I said, "Okay, my numbers are going to be good enough." So that's kind of the determination that I just wouldn't let people tell me no. The part where the faith in God comes in was the night that I took my MCAT, the night before the MCAT was very hard for me. That's your medical college entrance exam. I was sleeping. I had to take it in a different state because I would not take the MCAT on the Sabbath. So I had to step out in faith, and I had to go to another state to take the MCAT. Sleeping in my sister's bed, her dog was waking me up. I had a dream in the middle of the night that someone was talking to me about the MCAT. The next day, I had to drive 45 minutes to get to the MCAT on a Sunday. Everybody else takes it on Saturday. I said, "No, I'll take it on Sunday." As I get to the hardest portion of the MCAT, which is the verbal reasoning section, I was struggling, and I remembered every single thing that was told to me in that dream, and it was on my test. I believe to this day that was God giving me help on my MCAT. Fast forward, I'm in med school, and I was trying to do well in the anatomy exam, and I realized that I wanted to be a surgeon by my first year in med school. I wanted to have honors. There's this thing in school, in med school, where it's honors, high pass, pass. It's not just A, B, C, D. I wanted to get honors in anatomy so I could be a surgeon and go to a good residency program. I'm sitting in the anatomy class, and it's head and neck. And Rudy probably knows head and neck and the brachial plexus are like the hardest parts about anatomy. And I was like, "Lord, I don't remember this stuff. I did not study on the Sabbath. I trusted you. Please help me to get these questions right." I remember feeling this presence next to me, telling me exactly what each pin on the cadaver was. I got 100%. I was the only person in my class that got 100%, and I got honors in anatomy. The last one was when I was doing medical research at Duke, and I had just found out about urology at that program. I was in a research lab, and my professor was working on vaccines for kidney cancer. 15 years ago, that was cutting edge. Now, it's standard of care. So I was in this lab, and I was like, "Lord, please help me. This is not making sense." And I fell asleep, which she knows I can do very easily. I fell asleep, and during my sleep, while I was sleeping, I just felt this hand hit me and say, "Put it together, it's right in front of you." So I woke up, and I looked at the data I was looking at. I looked at what I had written. I was reviewing all these abstracts and trying to put together this data about how to have a vaccine for cancer. And it just made sense all of a sudden about how to help this vaccine be put on the market. And I went and told Johannes Vieweg was his name, the chairman there of the lab, and I told him, I think this is what makes sense. He was very quiet, and he said, that's wonderful. That makes sense. Let's have a meeting about it. And from that day on, he supported me and recommended me for, I'm trying to shorten it, recommended me for being a urology resident, in speaking a different language, but you have to be recommended to go into the subspecialty within medicine that you want. He moved from Duke to Florida, and he said, you need to come here to Florida, and I want you part of our Florida program. But the last thing that's really funny is, I understand, the last thing that's really funny is, I fell asleep the night of my residency match. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't sleep. I was so nervous about it. There's a pattern. Yeah. I couldn't sleep. I was so nervous the night of the match that I couldn't sleep. And the way the match works is everybody matches at 9 o'clock the next day. They tell you across the country where you're going for your next stage of your career when you finish med school. I slept through mine because I couldn't sleep. I woke up the next morning, and my number one spot was UT Southwestern. It was a dream for me. That's like the Harvard of urology. If y'all know that, it's like the Harvard of urology. And I knew I wouldn't get it, so I was planning on being stuck in Indiana in cold weather, but at least Ashley would be there. So I woke up and saw the email, and it said UT Southwestern. And I was so happy that I jumped up in my condo and almost punched a hole in the ceiling because I jumped up so high. But I just felt like all these times in my career where I really need God's help, He helped me. And it was when I was sleeping. That's the theory. That's the point. It was when I was literally inactive. I gave my best, I was inactive, and God did the rest. So I wanted to encourage you all with that long testimony that you do your best, you trust in God, and He will help you. So any specific questions for us? Or anybody else want to add something?
One sec, but it was like typical example of the process of creation. In psychology, when you work first, you study, you try to put things together, but you need to relax for it to come together.
This is just for anyone who wants to answer, but so we're hearing Will talk about how God played a role in when he was struggling, or just at any point in his, coming up in his career. Just for anyone else, I just want to hear how God played a part in your lives while you were, in college or in an internship. Just at any point that you're struggling in the pathway to your career.
What's your name again? Chidi. Okay. That's a really, really awesome question, Chidi. So I remember vividly in sophomore, we call it Form 2, 10th grade, growing up in Kenya. My dad died, passed away. Right? So from being the eldest child in my family, so now you told me, do I not have a dad? But I almost need to switch immediately, become the breadwinner of the family. So my mom is now depending on me because she, again, based on the culture, not the culture, but socioeconomic status of the country. There were not too many jobs, right? So my dad was a teacher. He ends up passing away, and my dad was a homemaker. Right? I don't know what the equivalent of that is, right? But so that became very difficult. But your question is, how did God guide you through difficult situations or as you prepare for career decisions or college? You know, once you surrender your heart, for my case, I'm a child with no dad, no income to the family, and I'm just starting my life. And so how do I make it through life at this point, right? I have siblings that also need to, in Kenya, high school, you pay school fees just like college. So here, high school is free, public school, right? But over there, you pay school fees. So I have siblings that gonna have to go to high school. I'm halfway in high school. My mom doesn't work. So honestly, at that point, it takes God. So nothing else, there's nothing else that he can do except miracles, right? Now, honestly, I don't have all the answers, but I do know that I ended up graduating high school, right? And it's a big deal. But you're told what to do in college. You don't really just get to choose. In Kenya, you're told what to do, so everyone knows. But to go to one of the public schools, you have a certain level of points you have to meet. All right, so when I graduated, the points were 64. Just look at it as a number. For you to make it to college, you have to have 64. I had 63. So just think about, how lives get destroyed just because of a weird backward system, right? But to answer your question, even if you don't feel it, even if you can't say, God, today this is what you did for me today. The next day, this is what you did for me, God. But it's almost like, how can I say? You don't realize what's going on. You just keep on moving. You have faith. Just stay confident that, especially extremely blessed just to be in here right now in this building, being in church, and in this society today where God is almost taking a backseat in the society, by just being here alone. Honestly, it's like, please, grow up knowing that the floodgates of heaven is waiting to open for you. Right? God is so pleased with you in ways that you don't even know. You cannot understand at this level. So keep going. Just trust God, knowing that, hey, in all these stories that you hear, yours will be bigger. Even as you go through your challenges, God will take you through way, way, weightier challenges, and your life will be wonderful. And never forget your God. So no matter what happens, always know God was fast. He will always be fast, and is fast. I hope I answered your question. All right.
Just one.
Thank you. I'll stay at the back if it's okay with you guys. So you asked when someone struggled in their career. In my family, we are 5. So like he said, when you finish high school, it's school for you going to college. My immediate follower, he was the first son, and in Africa, a son is gold, right? When he was in high school, he stopped going to school. He went into drugs, he disappeared. But when I finished high school, I wanted to be a nurse in Africa. I got the grades, I passed my sciences. By then I had met Brian, he knows the story. To go to nursing school, it was called MTC. I was accepted, right? And my dad, he lived in a different city, so he was coming, he had the money ready. But when he came back, 2 days before he came, my brother appeared. I had been accepted into one of the schools that I wanted. He said, well, I know you wanted this school, but let me educate your brother. It was so hard for me. But, so I saw I will never get to college, right? My elder sister was in education. I never wanted to do education. And my mom, she said, any college degree any college certificate is something. I want you to do early childhood. I never wanted to do it because I saw as if my life was just, this is what I wanted. So my mom convinced me. We fought about it though, but then she convinced me. I went into early childhood. That's what I did. By God's will, we won green card and came here. I'm a nurse now. This is what I wanted, but I was not able to do it then. So if you want something, do not give up. God showed up for me when I had given up.
I want to add one thing because sometimes it's on the other side. Because a lot of the time we think, okay, yes, God will, like you heard, like God kind of help him. He tells him this is what it is. Sometimes we can also be very stubborn in what we want to do, and that's not necessarily what God wants us to do. And I say this because I'm not gonna say I'm really smart, but I was a smart kid. Like through school, I found school was easy-ish in a way. And I remember the first time I failed. There are people like you go to college. There are kids who fail. They fail because they're not trying, or they fail because they don't study, or they don't do this. For me, it was different. I was studying. I was doing all these things, doing it right. But for whatever reason, I kept on failing. And I couldn't understand why. And I remember saying, okay, I prayed, I do all the things, and it just never clicked. And for 2 straight semesters, I failed. Like I literally failed. And I couldn't understand why. I was trying. I was studying, staying late at night. And I said, God, I know you're going to help me. I know you always help me. What's different this time? And it wasn't way later down the years, and it clicked. It's like, this is not what I wanted for you. This is what you wanted. This is what your family wanted. This is what everybody wanted. But what I wanted for you is different. And I tell you what, the minute I switched, and God, I took after it's not an option. You have to have a college degree. It's not an option. The question is, what's next? And that's when I didn't give up there. I was saying, what's next? And then I listened. I did, some career tests. I say, what am I good at? And it leads me back all the way to my childhood. And it says, okay, let's try this. And I said, and at that point on, everything clicked, and it's just like, it was back to being, oh, this is easy. I get it. Okay. So I'm saying this because keep in mind, yes, God is here to help you, but he may not always help you in the way that you think he's going to help you.
So coming still on the same topic, I'll try to be really quick, okay? But when I moved from Lithuania to Texas at about 20 years ago, I was elementary school teacher in Lithuania for 8 years. So I had experience. I had 2 bachelor's degrees, 1 master's degree in education, and 4 years of PhD in education, but ours was like 5 years in Lithuania, so I didn't finish it. So I moved to Texas, and teaching was my passion. I wanted to continue doing what I was doing, and I could not imagine myself anywhere else. So what happened, I started subbing schools, just naturally. You're trying to see how it all goes. So for 7 years, I couldn't get a job. It was 7 years, not kidding you. So I would go to 3 different districts, Northwest ISD, Keller ISD, and Westlake Academy, which is in South Lake. And I worked every day as a sub. And I knew all the teachers, I knew all the positions that opened up, and I applied into those positions. I wanted to be second, third, whatever teacher. I would not even get called for the interview. And you can imagine when it is, and then you go back to sub and you see who was selected instead of you. So it was emotionally kind of like really strange 7 years, and Daryl can witness that. And then I was trying to work on my resume to make, like, you know, all the things that they tell you to do, like go make connections with people, you know, just find someone you know, like tell about yourself, be brave, which I hate, you know, go and show off myself, but nothing worked. It was 7 years of that, and it broke my heart. It was hard. And then I don't remember exactly, Daryl, when it happened, but we realized I cannot do the same things and expect a different result. Because, you know, I just worked, like, you know, I was trying to do it on my own strengths or something. You know, like, okay, read this, learn more, perfect your, you know, like whatever skills you have, go take another degree or whatever. Nothing worked. I was trying to make connections, everything failed. But then what happened, and I don't remember how it come to our mind, but we start not just praying, but we start fasting every Saturday. Fasting and praying for that particular goal. And that's where things start moving. And it was so interesting, you know, because that fasting, and I don't like fasting very much. I get headaches and all that. And I was like, but everything seemed like the worship seemed different when you're fasting. I was just like, it was an interesting experience, but that's when things start changing. So when I stepped one day in this special ed classroom, and it was severe autistic kids, and they did not have enough staff, so I was subbing there every day. And suddenly the teacher who was there said, they are hiring an assistant here. Did you apply? I said, yes. Did they call you for interview? No. So, because everybody who came to see that room, they would just did not want to work in that room. Because those were more severe autistic kiddos. And I was working there. I led those kids. They got to know me. She said, why aren't they hiring you? You're so good at this. And that's what happened. That's how I got a job. So when we start fasting. And from there, I was assistant 2 years. And I ended up actually switching from being just general education teacher to SPED World, which I swore to myself I would never do. Like, when I moved to Texas, I've never seen that, like, special education teachers and with all that system in Lithuania. But yes, that was a switch too. Even if I swore to myself, I don't want this, I don't want, anyways, but God really did a miracle, you know, but just because I did try in my own strength, perfect all the things that I need to perfect. And now I'm teaching special education too, like for 10 years in elementary school. And it's not easy, but it's just like being, you know, the last resort for those kids when everything else fails. So there is a charm and a like mission field almost. But yeah, so anyway.
Are there more questions? I saw some more hands.
My question is, what's the most rewarding part of your career? Rewarding, what's the rewarding part?
Well, I would say because mine has changed, and I think probably most people's careers have changed, I'll go with what is the most rewarding right now. And so right now I'm homeschooling my kids, and I would say the most rewarding part is actually teaching them. And what I mean by that is seeing them learn. Teaching your children how to read is really cool, because my first two I didn't teach them. They just came home knowing how to read, and I was like, that's cool, they know how to read. But now, like, I'm going through it with them and learning with them as well. So it is really cool. I love teaching my kids. Probably, actually, I know much more than they do. Like, Michaela, just for example, is behind with her math right now because we were at camp last week. So I said, I'm sorry, Michaela. I said, you were supposed to do, you know, your math lessons even when I was busy last week and you didn't. So I said, you can't watch TV this weekend. So that's like tonight. We usually watch TV. And I said, but I will help you. I said, we'll do math together because I love doing math. So I said, we'll sit down and we'll do math together. And then last night she came up to me. She's like, I'm actually kind of excited about that. She's like, I really don't care about not watching TV tonight. So it is fun.
So for me, it is when I see the change. For example, when I had that child in first grade, she was the bottom 3% on reading. Bottom 3% of all first graders at school. So the lowest of the lowest. When she was finishing 4th and 5th grade, she was on grade level. So this kid, like, when you see the change like that, you know, when she goes from severe need of intervention, that I just can let her go. You don't need me. Hi. So basically, for me, it's the joy when those kids eventually don't need you. and it's not the only one. Or you see another kid that meets you like in the store and says, "Oh, I remember you," and she's already like middle school, high school, and she says like, you know, "You taught me how to read. I couldn't get that in first grade." But that's another girl. And it's just, then it's really worth it. Because sometimes there is like, those kids that I work with, they tried all the other systems to help them. Dyslexia system, all this and all that. So if it works, when we find what works, that's just the biggest thing. And then they teach me some stuff too. So that's cool.
So I've got two things. I think I deal with patients that are in chronic pain, and many times they're in pain for multiple years. So those patients are kind of, I think of biblical terms like the lepers, where really no one wanted to treat them, they're kind of pushed around. And managing those patients, helping them have some sort of quality of life is really rewarding. That's number one. They're difficult because a lot of times they get to me, they've been in so much pain for many years and been kind of pushed around. But the other thing is, as I was talking about this evolution of your career, the way you're different from your 20s and your 30s and 40s, the other thing that's really interesting to me is building a business and helping support many lives. We have like 25 employees, and helping support an infrastructure, that's also rewarding. So twofold.
Yeah, for me, it's the term work-life balance. So there's work, it's flexible, I guess, in a way. There's a lot of remote opportunities, so you could actually work anywhere. You can work from home or anywhere in the world.
So for me, just to be able to, the rewarding part of my life is being an entrepreneur in my profession, my career. It's being an entrepreneur. So even as we all, get educated and you hope to, get to dream jobs or dream professions, but I also challenge, everybody to, at some point, consider being an entrepreneur, business owner, because then you are not only just taking care of your family, but you're giving other people opportunities. So, like, Doc is saying, we have people that they employ working in their business. Now, you're giving opportunity to others, right? And so, with entrepreneurship also comes the flexibility. And so, specifically, as a financial professional, so a lot of people don't like to talk about money, like discussed earlier. But once you're able to, get families to relax and realize, like, hey, there's an opportunity, and they share about what their financial goals and dreams, and then you come up, devise a product together, right? So to me, that is so rewarding because then you're able to give a vision or allow families to be able to achieve certain specific wealth dreams to include their children that otherwise they would not. And a lot of times I do it for free. So that's why it's so fulfilling.
That's a very good question. I'm going to share a tip with you that a friend of mine, one of our former pastors, shared with us, and that is every day pray for two things: spiritual eyes and a divine appointment. And I promise you, I guarantee that when you pray that prayer, the answer is always going to be yes. So every day when I drive to work, I'll pray for three things: spiritual eyes, divine appointment, and that I get all my IVs. But only two of those prayers are answered every day. spiritual eyes and divine appointment. I get 10 to 12 minutes to get a patient ready. I work in pre-op. We do up endoscopies and colonoscopies. And so sometimes you wonder, am I making a difference? But I've gotten to pray with patients. I have cried with patients because some people are just coming in to be screened, but sometimes I'm taking care of somebody. The other day I had somebody who had lost his son at 25 to colon cancer. And so what's rewarding is that in that short time, I have the opportunity to make somebody's day a little bit better. And last week I had 2 people say, thank you so much for your kind, reassuring presence. And I didn't feel as though my treatment of that patient was any different from the one before or the one before. But when you're asking God to be his vessel, the answer is always yes. So you don't have to wait till you have a career. You have a career right now. You're a son, you're a daughter, you're a student. So wherever you're at, ask God every day to give you a divine appointment, and you get to have that reward right now.
I'll give a snip of most people don't even think about what we do because you don't see me. It's like HR, but you're sitting in the house half of the week. What are you doing? So my job is to take care of you, of everybody, and think about it. When you look for a job, you say those resumes, you look at them. You get hired and boarded. You come from a foreign country, you're trying to see if your visa is supposed to be working and all that good stuff. And why do you work? To get paid, right? So my job is to make sure you get paid right every day. And then you want to go on vacation, who do you go to see? You come to us, leaves, you have benefits. Before you go to the hospital, we need to set up the benefits right so you can have things working for you. So basically, what I do is take the wholesome care of you. So I'm an HRS coordinator, which means I'm touching on each and every admin faculty's lives to make sure that they're doing what they need to do in their departments right, and then it comes to me as a final approval before it hits the system, and then it does what it needs to do. But then remember, I'm looking at you on a spreadsheet, thousands of names. But what matters to me is on that spreadsheet, each and every person, each and every name, it's data on my end, but that's a person. That person has a family. That family triggers it to someone else. But then when you get paid right and you're able to pay your mortgage on time, pay your car on time, get your medical benefits done on time, then I'm changing your life and having things done correctly. But then people have a concept, when I go to an office and appear somewhere in my full gear and badge, people start freaking out thinking I'm there looking for something. No, I'm not a police or something. Our job is to take care of you. It's just that thing out there that people fear, but when I get to you, when I'm talking to you, I'm trying to make sure that are you doing right? How can I help? So the fulfillment I get in my jobs over the years is being able to take care of you in ways you just don't think about. You see money in your account and it's like, you know what? I can drop the ball and trust me, you go there and it's really zero on a payday Friday, then you know how that goes. So.
I'm not gonna lie, whenever I think of HR, I'm like, what did I do wrong? Is this the day?
You all know what HR is.
For me, real quick, software, originally it starts off like I mentioned before, there's an evolution in your career. It was writing software, creating this stuff on my own. At the point I'm at right now, I'm a technical lead, so I oversee about 18 engineers at the moment. And I'm responsible for, not really the career development, that's like our manager, but for me it's their technical solutions, making sure they're doing their job right. It's so rewarding to see these young guys, and most of them, unfortunately, are young guys. There's not that many girls on our team. Actually, there's none right now. But it's really exciting to see them come in straight from college or whatever, and they create a solution, and they get excited about it, and they're just pumped up, and I just like to know that I was a part of that process. Because a lot of young people have imposter syndrome. Have you ever heard of that? It's a real thing. If you ever experience it or go through it, it's normal, and it impacts a lot of people, but I try to help my team know you're here for a reason, and you have the skills you need to get to where you need to get to, and I'm going to help facilitate that. And just one example, this past month, to do the software we have, in order to use it, it can take sometimes up to 3 hours to prepare a scenario. Well, one of the young guys on the team had an idea to reduce the amount of time it would take, and his solution was really like 10 lines of software code. Well, the impact on the users went from a 3-hour setup of the software to about 5 minutes of setup time. It was a huge reduction in time, and it was not me. Like, I got all the praise because I'm the team leader, so the customers came and said, whatever you're doing is amazing, keep it up. And I just told them, it was that 22-year-old kid over there. It was his idea. And they said, really, are you sure? I'm like, yeah, I just gave him a chance. I listened to him. So the rewarding thing about being a software engineer as you're moving up to becoming a team leader, and it's really just the people aspect is, like, I just thank God of being able to help someone achieve their goals has been the most rewarding now. So that's what I love about what I do at the moment.
I heard her say there's a friend of ours whose husband is a fireman, and the husband told her, I don't feel like I go to work every day because I'm so happy. Something basically like that. I don't feel like I've been to work a day in my life. So aside from these three things, I love 100% of every aspect of my job. The three things are Foley catheter in the middle of the night, managing priapism, some of y'all know what that is. And the other one is fixing other surgeons' intra-op errors. Those are the three parts of my job that always puts me in a bad mood. That put me in a bad mood. So, being on call is a normal stressor. So, no matter, it's the frequency of call that puts me in a bad mood. But if I had another Foley catheter when I'm 90 years old, I'll still be angry. Call is just, so, those are the three things about my job that I've realized. No matter how frequent, how much, no matter what time, it always is stressful. Always makes me upset, puts a downer on my life. But my job is I love, so right now I'm finally no longer ascending in my career. I'm finally on cruising altitude in my career, and this is my 12th year, and I'm 45. So I love, at this point in my career, I realize that I love this part. This is not an ego part. I love this part of my career. Because I'm especially a urologic oncologist, which means I do robotic cancer surgery. People give more to me than they give to their pastor. So they can't lie to me because I see everything. You can't lie to someone who sees inside of your body. So people are very, very straightforward with me. I love that part because there's a trust that ends up happening. It's not perfect. People don't tell you everything, but there's a trust aspect of my job that I love. It makes it very easy for me to share the gospel with people. Very easy. My entire staff all participated in Bible study. Every single one of them has been to this church. Every single one of my staff has been to this church. They hear me praying with patients, so it's a natural mesh. Every aspect of medicine is like that, just like Anne-Marie said, just like Marie said. That's a plug I'll give you for medicine, is a natural. When people trust you with their body, they will trust you with, if they can look into your eyes and say you have trustful eyes, they can believe that you're giving them something. You say, hey, I'm just serving just like Jesus Christ did. I say that. My scribe is with me every single day, and she hears me say that in her relationship. So that's one aspect of my job that I love, is the gospel is right next to urology. I love the intellectual component of cancer drugs, of the technology, the physics and the engineering behind robotics and lasers and scopes, which is what I do every single day. I barely ever cut anybody with a knife anymore. Everything is using lasers and natural orifices and CT scans, everything, just like Rudy. He does everything through the skin. Very few, it's minimally invasive surgery. I love the intellectual stimulation of that. I love the business aspect. We didn't learn this in med school, but once you reach your critical height, once you reach your cruising altitude in medicine, you're a businessman, you're a businesswoman, you're a business owner. You are involved in real estate, you're involved in acquisitions, you're involved in mergers, you're involved in selling and buying practices, you're involved in making sure your employees you're involved in making sure the right HR person treats your employees right. You're the man. And so I enjoy that aspect of being a business owner and a business director and creating a culture of my business. So I enjoy, there are a lot of parts about medicine that I enjoy, but like I mentioned, those three things are things I don't like. Call is modifiable. So you can change. You can change how often you're on call. It may take some major changes in your life, but you can change that. So don't let call deter you. It is a requirement of medicine. When you're off call, you're still on call. You know, Reese said that one of his friends who just had surgery called him the other day, and he's not even on call. It happens. So when you're responsible for other people, though, you take that as an honor. And if they're calling you, when they know you're not on call, that means they trust you. So, yeah.
In one of Will's favorite lines is, finally what?
Respect.
He says, finally some respect. So he has a lot of respect.
Are there any other questions? Janelle has a question. He had to leave, but unless you all, any other? I'll ask it at the end.
All right, so my question is, so at some point y'all were young too, like us. Well, but like my question is, what is like the biggest piece of like, what is one thing you prioritize, or like what is like one of your most important investments that you made that got you to where you are, not just in your career, but like, you know, in life. You know what I mean? Like.
So that was actually similar to Chinyas's question, so I'll just ask him, or ask you all his question. So he had a specific question for you, Rennie. He wanted to know how you got to, how do you say it, Lockheed Martin? Because that's where he wants to work, and kind of what was your strategy to get there? And I guess with you all, like, same kind of question. What Ryan's asking is, what did you do? Yeah, like what? Like young as in your college career or even before that? Just any time?
What is the biggest return on investment? What is one thing that you recommend?
I'll let somebody else start.
I'll say the most important thing, you may not be thinking about it right now. I wasn't thinking about it at your age. It's marriage. It's probably one of the most beneficial, but yes, most destructive partnerships you can partake in. So when it comes down to picking a partner in life, you're going to look for a husband or wife, whatever, you want to pray about it. Really pray about it, and you know, be patient. Don't rush it, because that will really impact everything going forward. Because once you get married and have kids and all that, it's other people's lives that are at stake. For me, short thing that really made a difference. I originally, like with where I work right now at Lockheed, there's 3 companies I've always wanted to work for. One of them was Microsoft, one of them was Lockheed because of the airplanes they built, and the third one was Google. And I'm at the point in my life, it's really because of my wife, honestly, Carla. She supports me a lot. And early on in my career, one of the first opportunities I got for an internship was with Lockheed. But I made a decision not to go there because of a girl, and it was not Carla, it was a different girl. She whispered in my ear certain things, and I went a different route. And it wasn't where I wanted to go, but I did it because when you're invested in other people, and that's like you mentioned earlier, the priorities in life, you got to make sure you have them, or try your best and pray that God will help you prioritize. At that time in my life, I was trying to decide where I want to go for my career, but I did let a lady in my life, and her whispers led me to go the other way. But long story short, I met Carla, and her support has been more of, wherever you go, I go. And as long as you take care of the family, put us first, and keep us in the church, I'll do whatever you need me to do to be, take care of our family. And where did I end up? Lockheed. I applied, and they got me in. Truth is, it took 50 interviews. I had to apply to over 50 positions. until one really worked. And when it comes to the other companies I've ever wanted to work for, just to be very clear, this is where you know God winks at you. I've always wanted to work for Microsoft, and I received an offer from them. But the reason I didn't go, it was just about a year ago or so. They said I had to move to Seattle, Washington, and I had to live up there. I've always wanted to live up there. But I go back to my wife. Carla, what do you want? She said, if you want to go, I'll go. If you find a church up there, and we know a place where we're going to go, we'll go. And I prayed about it. And in my prayer, and it was not really a dream, but it was more of a overnight type of thing. All I kept on thinking about was God was saying, what's best for your children? And my children love coming here. So I made a decision, I really want to work there, but my kids love coming to church here. So I'm going to stay here. So I put that offer on the side. I always apply for companies just to see what's out there. I got an offer with SpaceX just 2 months ago. But same thing, you got to come to Los Angeles. And honestly, I don't really care where I want to go. I just want to work on the rockets. I want to get us to Mars and the moon. But same thing, I pray, Lord, where do you want me to go? Where do you want me to go? And same thing came back to my mind. Where do my children want to be? My kids want to be here. They want to stay here in church, and they want to be with everybody. And that's my priority right now, just for you guys. Different stages of life, priorities change. My main priority has been my family and what's best for my kids. And if my kids love going to church, I'm going to keep that consistent. And where I work, I love it. Nothing wrong with it. But when you put God first, opportunities will come and go. But it's just remarkable that, I don't know, I'm learning through that process. Like, God's kind of showing me, trust me, and I will give the desires of your heart. However, as long as you trust, these opportunities open. So the reason I share all this is not to boast or anything, but I have seen that when I trust God, the doors are opening. But it's always that reminder, what's your priority in life? And He's reminding me to treat your family. So I hope I'm making the right decisions. And if they aren't, well, I don't know. I'm not no financial expert. I should probably talk to you about that. But my priority in life has always been my family. And everything else has been fun based off that. Yes.
I heard you say that you applied 50 times to 50 different positions. So that'd be a good takeaway though, like expand your horizon.
Never give up. Never give up.
You're still applying to different places.
I always do it for the fun I always want to be prepared for the future. Like mention, be flexible. You never want to close doors. So I have every year, Carly will tell you, there's weeks where I'm going to be in interview mode, so I go study and I prepare myself for certain things. I had a Google one, and the same thing with Google. They're like, you got to come to San Francisco. I'm not going to go there. I don't want to live there. But they're like, you got to come. And that was a fun interview experience. But the thing is, like I said earlier, I love learning. So for me, this is fun. For me to prepare for an interview has been fun. I've been rejected more than I've been offered something. So I would just say this, don't be discouraged. There's always a tomorrow, God willing. Don't take no for an answer like Will said. Sometimes people are going to just tell you, no, it's not possible. With God, anything's possible. And like what Stephen said, sometimes things may not be for you. Maybe they may not open up, but if you just keep on trying and I know it's kind of hard it's kind of abstract at times, but concrete example, what does it look like to try and believe? It's wake up every morning, you pray, you do what you need to do wherever you're at. If you're in school, you go to your schoolwork, you go study, you go learn, but don't worry about tomorrow. God will open those doors when the time is right, and even if it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, it will. And the job that I got right now, I said it, 50 positions. I applied, and I got told by everybody, just give up, forget that place. Then one day, one of them just came back, and it might not seem like much, but after you apply for something over and over again, you just kind of want to give up. But you never know what tomorrow is going to be. And yeah, that was a 2-month period, if I'm not lying. Took 2 full months of applying every day, because there was a limit. How many times you can apply for something? But anyways, yeah, whoever wants to go next.
On the sheet I sent out, there's a verse that runs me Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope in the future. So going to Ryan's question, when I finished my bachelor's degree, I couldn't afford 2,000 Kenya shillings for rent. I have a family, I've moved in with my wife and my son. I don't have a job, but I'm an entrepreneur, so I start just doing some little business to try and raise whatever I can. And then I see an advert in the newspaper. If you know Africa, that's a no-go zone. It's a big company. They've advertised for a management internship position on a newspaper. And George will tell you that's not happening. That position is filled. When you see it, it's done. So I put an application. And someone calls me, and I end up getting the job. So I work on that one, and I meet someone else. But then, to cut the story short, I normally believe every day when I wake up, there's nothing I know. I can wake up sick, I cannot wake up completely, I can be sitting here, I won't get home. So my mindset is always that every day when I wake up, I just have a mindset that, you know what, Lord, use me for whatever you want for the day. And if you have a career, how many people can be in that position that you are in? And then you look through time, and then you look back, and it's like, he likes math, he's a software engineer, and someone else likes math. Me and math, we are not on the same page. But guess what I do every day? I pay people from $5 to millions of dollars in salaries and benefits. And it's just God. It's like, okay, God, what do you want us to do today? And then that kind of sinked into the family. I've had opportunities come up, and then somehow I normally believe it's me that wants it. I've had a federal job that I hated so bad that one day I walked into work at 3 a.m. and stood there and told the director of security that, you know what, I'm going back home to sleep, I've resigned, straight up. And he's like, did you just tell me, director of TSA, that you are going home to sleep and you're not even giving 14 days? I'm like, yeah, watch me. And I walked back to my car and went home and prayed. And told my wife, and she was like, okay, if that works for you, then it is. But I normally pray when I do some of those things, and God shows me signs, and he was like, you know, you can never get a federal job after this and everything, and I'm like, no, I will pray, and God will answer. And I went home. Another instance, I once had a boss who came in place and was like, just causing total chaos. And one day I come from church, they're always connected to church. I was in church, I didn't tell I was resigning, went home after lunch, was sitting on the couch and resigned on a text message. And then she walked from the bedroom and saw me smiling, and he's like, that's a weird smile, what are you up to? And I'm like, I just resigned from JP Morgan Chase, the bank. I just got a promotion, a pay raise on the Friday. And she was like, if that's what's right for you, then do it. Then the boss calls me and asks me what I'm gonna do. I'm like, you know what? I'm from church, I've prayed. I got a car, minivan, doing nothing on the driveway. Monday at 8, I'm gonna Uber. Put up the app, went through, and I Ubered for a month and was able to take care of my bills. But the thing is, in as much as you're talking about career and life and everything, there is always one thing. You don't know anything, and you have a God who has answers. And he will take you places you've never believed in. I've been in corridors of power in this country, in places, first of all, by just being a foreigner, I should never step. I've been into some high secured places that I get there and I get shocked what God is doing with my life. And then I look back how he first of all got me to this country. We come in here with about, how many suitcases at the airport when relocating? 4. And you make a life, and you start owning property, and you start changing lives and doing all these things you do. It's not with your power. It's with God. So when you don't have the answers any day, just kneel down and pray. And he would show you things you've never believed. Thank you.
It's hard to answer with one thing, so it's two things that go hand in hand. And I know you've heard this verse a lot, but looking back, I see how it's made an impact in my life, and that is, Proverbs 3:5, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not unto your own understanding. I can't take any credit for it. From the time I was little, I had a love for God and wanting to be in His will. The other piece of advice is something my aunt said, whatever you do, do as unto the Lord, whether it's cleaning the toilet or cutting lettuce. Do everything as unto the Lord. It may not be noticed by everyone, but at the right time, God will open whoever's eyes need to be opened. And then just a nugget. If you're asking God to open doors, you have to knock. So keep knocking.
That's a tough one for. Obviously, I've shared, my past, and I think if I can tie it up all together, responding to your question about what is it, the best decision you've ever made. That's correct? Oh, that was a question, right? To me, it's having Romeo's mom as my wife. That is the most awesome thing, career-wise, anything that I've ever done. Because through that partnership, and hopefully you get there, everybody lives different paths, but after all the career is done, and even when you go to work and come home, in the evening, at the end of the month, whatnot, which home do you arrive to? Right? And when home is godly, when home is love, when the home is Christ, and when home has loving, wonderful children, then you're going to do anything, especially for gentlemen, you're going to do anything, whether it's cleaning the toilet, whether it's sweeping the streets. Clean toilets in a nursing home here, one of my first jobs. I cleaned it so well when I wanted to quit to go to nursing school. The boss, the administrator said, no, you can't leave. How much money do you want? So we have you keep cleaning the toilets. I did it so well. When I swept the floors, it was so well good, you could see the mirage. Like when you walk and I see, I don't know what you call it. Yes. It was shining. The administrator said, no, you can't leave, George. Who is going to clean the floors like this? How much more money do you want? Right? And I was doing it for God. Okay? And so, because I knew that if I do all these, first, God rewards me. Secondly, I come home and my wife is so happy when I share the stories. And then we have a dream to now being an entrepreneur. That's where you learn the skills. You realize, like, hey, I deal with people's financial decisions. Then now you give it your best. So now you do whatever you do, you put yourself last, because that person depends on you and their children and their future. You mess up, you mess them up, right? And so my wife is the biggest, best ever decision I've ever made that trumped any career.
So career-wise, I'm going to say this, two words that resonates with me, work ethics. So most people who knows me, they know me because of the piano, because people always see me playing piano. Most people don't even know I was a sophomore engineer. Learning piano at an early age gave me certain level of discipline that's not necessarily common to a lot of people, because I practice a lot, like a lot. So one thing about me is when I love something, like I can spend hours doing it. And once I love something, I'm determined to be good at. Like, this is something that just drives me. It's a curse at times, because I have to, like, a lot of people say they want to be the best. I never cared about being the best necessarily, but the analogy I use, if there is a basketball team, I'm going to be in the starting lineup, if that makes sense. So for me, that drives me a lot. So I would put hours and hours into programming. Like, I would go to work, after work, and that was before kids. It's harder now. I would literally spend an additional 5-6 hours just coding, like straight up coding and coding and coding and coding and coding. I would do this for like a year or 2 years straight. Like, easily code every day for like 15 hours. Before I knew it, I've gotten so good at doing it that people who had more years of experience, they were coming to me for help. And it's not because, you know, I'm the smartest. I'm not the smartest, but I work very hard to be good at it. So if you're one of those people, it's like me, work ethics goes a very long way.
So, like, I think I'm going to go in a little different direction. You know that you're probably not at an age, you shouldn't be at an age where you're going to get married. So, yes, marriage is a huge thing. It'll affect you financially. So if you're equally yoked, that's very important, but that's hopefully 10 years down the road for you guys. So right now you're kind of on that, you're about to take off, right? So for me, the biggest things for me, I'm going to keep it simple, like, honestly, getting good sleep hygiene, like sleeping. It impacts, yeah, no. I mean, part of it is like keeping a regimen. So sleeping is super important, keeping an adequate amount of sleep so you're rested, your mind is recovered. 2, eating healthily, right? Eating healthily. 3, I would say, besides work ethic, right, is the attitude of gratitude, like being grateful for what you have, not what you don't have. Those are basic things for me. I'm trying to think about, the other thing that's really important to me is constantly trying to learn, right? Like, whether you're, you know, obviously you're reading things at school, mastering whatever you're doing in calculus or economics, whatever you're doing, but having an attitude of like, of just being self-starting and learning. Listen to a podcast. If you have a proclivity to let's say, engineering versus like microbiology. I love microbiology, but you determine what you're kind of good at, and then pursue that. But staying, balanced in exercise, eating healthy, sleeping, being diligent about your work. Those are some basic things. I know it sounds like kind of common sense, but those are super important because if you eat pizza rolls, you go to bed at 2 in the morning, you're never gonna be as sharp and bright as you want to be. Yes, when you get to an age where you're gonna get married, being equally yoked, because that will affect you financially. Because say you marry a wife that doesn't want to save money, that wants to spend money, so you have to have those things. Hopefully, you're not there yet, but if you do get to that age, marriage is a huge financial, it has a financial impact on your lifestyle. But those are basic things I would think. The main thing would be, having the natural inclination to just learn what you desire, whether it's financial or computer science or whatever. So those are some basic things.
That's great. I was just thinking about self-care, taking care of yourself. But there's this scripture that came to my mind, Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. And in my life, I didn't do that. And a lot of bitterness came to, when things don't go your way necessarily, and you try and you're passionate about something and you want to make it happen, those things kind of try to attack you. Anger, bitterness, or disappointment. So spending time with God, reading His Word, guarding heart, just you're not your career. You know, your value, you're not less valuable if you're not in a great career yet. Okay?
I think everything that I would tell you has pretty much already been said. Anna Marie spoke a little bit about doing your best, and that was one of the things I was going to say. No matter what you're doing, and also George did too, about he cleaned the floors well, and starting at a young age, I would say that I always just tried my best at school, even in high school and college, and put forth your effort. Even when my friends weren't, I still wanted to do my best. And your first jobs, do your best. Everything matters. Everybody's watching you and observing and appreciating your effort when you do your best. So even now, like as a homeschool teacher, I just do my best. You know, I try to teach my kids as well as I can and take care of them, cook the best food that I can for them. I also try to take care of my body, like Rudy said. I do think that that is very important. And exercise, take care of yourself, teach your children how to take care of themselves. And like Rennie said, and George, and I think somebody else said about marriage, I think that's huge too. I feel like that's probably more important than your career, is to marry the right person. And as a woman, I think that you need to look for a spiritual leader. And I was very fortunate to, well, I guess I didn't find Will, we just met. But even when we were dating, he was my spiritual leader. You know, he led me to Christ, and that's huge. Who you marry, make sure that you, like you said, Inga, guard your heart, and even with people that you date. So.
Trying to think of if I could say one. I can't say one thing. Yes, I can. It's trusting in God. Sounds, we're in church, right? What does that mean? So, I think there were 3 decisions that I made, and I was trying to think of when I made the decision. The first one is I became obsessed with value. The second one was became obsessed with always being nice. And the third was I felt my own sayings that hold myself accountable by. So I think those are the 3 decisions that I made. I can explain a little bit, maybe 10 seconds on each one. Being obsessed with value, I think that came from when I saw the economic crisis of 2008. So essentially, in any economic crisis, whether it's depression, COVID, the people who are the least valued are the ones who are removed the quickest. So I wanted to make sure that I always looked, any businessman does this, politicians do this. They look for the gaps, they look for what's called a niche, and they fill the niche. Do you know what I mean? So when if you become an engineer, if you become whatever it is, you look for the aspect that your job needs the most, and that's what you say, I'm going to put myself there. So that's one thing that you can do. That's what I did. I wanted to be the top of the food chain for my specialty, which is robotic urological oncology. I wanted to do that not because of arrogance, not because I wanted a lot of money, but because that's value. If there's an acquisition, if there's a major job takeover, if there's anything, if there's an economic crisis, me and my family are the last to be affected. So that's what I wanted to be valuable. The second, and if I'm old, but I'm still the most valuable when I'm old, guess what? The young person goes out before me. So that's what I wanted. That's one thing that keeps you kind of thinking long-term, kept me thinking long-term. You make some sacrifices when you want to become valuable, but then you're studying your job and you're understanding what allows you to be happy in your job long-term, not just so I get a paycheck in 2 weeks. So value. The other one was always being nice. My career since I've been in college, people have known me as the nice guy. They haven't known me as the smartest guy. They haven't known me as the fastest guy on the team. They haven't known me as the strongest or the best surgeon. They've known me as the nice guy. What does that mean? They respect my character. And you want to make sure that for the rest of your life, people respect your character. And they know that you're legit when you tell them about Jesus Christ. called me Mother Teresa in residency. But you don't want to be able to, the biggest thing I talk to her about is being a hypocrite. You do not want anybody, if you say, hey, you want to come with me to church? And they'll be like, you go to church? You never want that. You don't want to be talking to somebody about, I do this or I do that because I'm a Christian. They'll be like, you're a what? Right? You don't want that. So, and it's natural. It's, to be who you, to have that gentleness about you to other people, that was important for me for my career. And I've had doors opened up to me, people come to me just because I was nice. Sounds simple, but that's one. The last thing is to have sayings. So I have some funny sayings that I hold myself accountable to that helps me in very difficult, complicated situations. And I think those sayings help you. They help to always tell the truth. I don't reason with unreasonable people. That keeps me out of conflict, which, just like Rudy said, some patients with difficult patients don't even go there. I don't reason with unreasonable people. So there's some sayings. So those three things, I think, have helped me in my career. One thing I want to ask you all so that you can help them in how did you choose your spouse? Like, how did it impact your career? And was it even a factor in your career? If y'all could, that may be a long, if there's a way you can truncate it.
I've said this before, but when we started dating, after graduating with my psychology degree, I knew that I wanted to go to grad school or med school or PA school or some type of graduate school. Never thought about nursing, but I liked medicine a lot. I knew it was going to be some area in medicine. But when we started dating, I started thinking in a more mature way, I think, and more with family in mind. So I've heard other people in the panel say that nursing is very versatile and you can work when you want. It's just very accommodating to having a family. So then I started thinking about nursing, and I knew that he was already in medical school at the time. So you think about your family and what's best for your family. And that answers your question. Great.
I think for us it was that we are very supportive to each other, and we don't try to push each other somewhere else. I think Daryl understands the passion of my heart. He understands my heart. I understand his heart. I hope he feels that, but yeah.
What was the question? Like, how do we, yeah. Well, I think we complement each other very well. Like, the yin and the yang, she's extrovert, introvert, and being equally yoked in, let's say, the financial aspect, family aspect. I think that's helped us grow and be, I know my role, she knows her role, and that complements the growth of the family. So I think those are the biggest things that we just, I don't know, I think that's the biggest key for us is she has her strengths that I have deficits in, and I have strengths that vice versa. So it's kind of the yin and yang. But yeah.
For me, it might be a little different and maybe a little easier because it was about maybe 18 years ago. I met my wife, and it was through a church graduation ceremony, and we ended up being the top 2 graduates at the ceremony. And the thing that made everything that I had achieved, she was always part of it. So we had common goals in terms of, we're gonna go to school. We went to the same school. We did this. Like, we're gonna graduate. We're not gonna get kids until we had like certain goals that we set. Just for us, like career-wise, we want to do this. We want to do this, and then we kept that. And everything that we've done has always been like throughout that same line, same approach. Like, we're patient. Like, whatever is going to take time. We're going to take time until we achieve this thing, and then we move to the next thing.
I guess mine is going to be a little same, but slightly different, right? So you heard the story of how I lost my dad at a very young age. I was 15 years, I believe. And so that left a huge void in my life growing up. I had to try different things. I had to quickly become very mature so that I would be an example to my younger siblings, right? So that's something that always stayed with me. So again, today, understanding how God works, there's a reason why. In choosing my wife, honestly, I remember I knew I wanted to marry. I was ready for marriage. So I went to my church elders and told them, elders, I'm looking for a wife. And they started praying for me. It was weird, right? But then I didn't find someone. So I went home on vacation, right? I went to Kenya and walked in my friend's house, first time ever, and I met this young lady. And the first thing I told her before I shook her hand, I said, "You're gonna be my wife." But I felt confident because the elders had prayed for me. So now I'm just manifesting. It was already sealed. So, as we worked towards our marriage, then we had a goal, right? We were just not getting married because of the two of us. We were getting married for our future, for our great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. So we want to pass on that blessing. So how I treat my wife is an example to my children. There's nobody else that can teach them better than what they see in the home, right? So that's what we do. We don't do it for us, we do it for our future generations, because God willing, we know our children say, you know what, I learned from my father how a lady needs to be treated. And I take that very seriously. I hope that answers this.
I just wanted to clarify, is it how we met or how it's impacted us, or both? How it's impacted us?
How did your choice of your spouse impact your
That's a tough one.
Or even in marriage, maybe like.
Well, so it's important to choose well and communicate well. So I knew before we had kids that it was important to me to stay home for at least 5 years. And so when we were dating, I said to Ruby, what do we need to do so that I can stay home for 5 years and not have to put the kids in daycare? And because both of us were supportive of that, we rented an apartment for 5 years. We paid off debt. We saved for a house. So, one, I made it very clear that this was important to me, and he was in agreement with that. And then both of us worked toward that goal, and we lived very frugally. By very frugally, we didn't travel for 5 years. Both of us drove our own cars because that was a core value. But then there was a time where I said, I miss working. I'd like to work more. And he was also very supportive of that. So just communicate and then find somebody who's in alignment with your values. And then tied to that is, make it a point to get to know yourself, who you are, and what's important to you. So if you value being healthy, then date somebody who's healthy, but don't date a couch potato and then wonder why they're a couch potato. If you like the outdoors, look for somebody who likes the outdoors. Now, we don't have everything in common. He loves to run. I hate to run. But both of us like to move our bodies. Both of us like to eat healthily. So also, become the person you want to marry. What I mean by that is, if you want to marry an active person, you need to be an active person. And I'm just using that as an example because it's tangible. But if you value somebody who, if you're a family person, marry somebody who enjoys their family. If they're estranged from all their family members, that's a red flag. So get to know who you are, and then look for somebody with similar core values. You're not going to find somebody identical. He's very much an introvert. He'd much rather be home alone, and me, the more the merrier. Bring it on. But however we helped each other, I bring the fun. And I've helped draw him out of his shell, and he's helped me get more sleep.
It's back to church. So let's see. The question was career. By the time we were meeting, I had an idea of what I was trying to do. Because remember, I had a game plan. I missed the points. I'm missing cutoff in Kenya. I don't have any university. I have to figure it out. My dad is like, you know what? You go bring a game plan. And then one day I go to church. And you wouldn't see me praying frequently. You might look at me and you don't think I'm religious sometimes from just the way I function, but I highly connect with God in ways that are very strange. So I go to church, I'm sitting in a Sabbath school lesson, I'm having my own battles with another Muslim dad somewhere who's trying to have me convert. I don't even know where the conversation came from. And I decided to go to church. And we're on a youth class. Yeah, you're that class there. Your class. And the benches are opposite. And I've been going to church every day, and I've never seen my wife, and she's sitting opposite, and I look, and trust me, something struck my mind, like, there's something. I didn't even know where she's coming from, so I come from church and start applying my FBI skills, find a home, start scribbling my love notes and everything, but I was convinced there's something. So we start dating, and then she's going through all those, she doesn't have a career, the parents are not able to take her to the nursing school, she mentions it goes to the early education thing. Me, I was already determined. Remember, I'm going for that child thing, and I'm already halfway into the program. I'm already in Uganda doing the advanced high school program. But then we keep going, and over the years, we started supporting each other's career. So we finally, she ends up teaching, I end up graduating with my bachelor's, and I start getting jobs towards that direction. But then we come to this country, and the first person who picks me at the airport pulls this, in the US, you can never get an HR job. You have to start from a warehouse, and all I told him is, you know what, dude, watch me. And I think it's gonna answer Ryan's question. I'm the kind of person who, I told them, give me 2 weeks, and I asked someone to rent me a computer and internet at my sister's place. When I start looking for jobs, the minimum applications I put out there is between 300 to 500. And I have stats for the stuff. Out of those, I normally get about 100 rejects, none responses, and about 2 interviews and 1 offer. So that's a thing out there. But then in between my career, remember, I've been doing other things, but she has been supporting me through. I've had a time I was working a day job and doing janitorial part-time job to pay school fees. She didn't object that. She kind of supports me through. I resign these jobs and kind of we keep on track. And we are on the same page too. Transparency on finances, when we bring them in from the different jobs, we put them together. But then we set the goals and kind of chase them. It's like, okay, you're going to do nursing, do you have a game plan? It's like, yeah, I'm going to do ABCD, go for it. And then I do my own thing. But then we come back, we discuss and strategize. Because remember, when she was in the nursing school, I have the babies to take care of, and when the people in nursing, they know it gets crazy. So I'm babysitting, but I'm working at the same time because she has to sleep at night, in the day, and go to whatever at night. So that support is really crucial, because I can be like, you know what, you can do this nursing thing and I'm babysitting. I can decide to become stubborn and that won't work. So working together is very important because each job has stressors. Sometimes I'm remote, and if some people call me and it's like, hey, are you home? Come and go do ABCD. Sometimes I am so busy in that office, I can't go to the kitchen, make a cup of coffee. And I just don't need to be disturbed. Like the weeks I have payroll, I normally communicate in advance because I'm like, you know what, Friday, Monday is going to be payroll. So once in a while, you might hear things being thrown out of the office. So she works with me on those, but then it's that working together. And it comes down to prayer too sometimes, because it gets crazy. You can come from work tired and everything and supporting each other, because you can imagine you being from a 15-hour shift and someone is home just been watching the whole day, and then you expect to start demanding for things from the kitchen. You're going to have a problem, right? So people got to work together on this, but it's been so far so good, and God's been holding on to those. Thank you.
I shared a bit before, but I think just to keep it really short, I didn't think I was ever going to get married growing up, because in my family, it may not be like this for you all, but you live life according to your references that you experience in life. Everybody except my parents and one uncle I have, they all been divorced. Like most of my relatives, they've been divorced at least once or twice. A lot of they have children out of marriage. That, a lot of that kind of stuff. A lot of the families I knew growing up, divorce is very common. Having kids outside of marriage is very common. That was very normal. And for me, through the grace of God, at a young age, I knew that wasn't right. Something was not right. So I was afraid of marriage. I was afraid of getting in relationships because I didn't want to be another statistic or be just like everybody I know around me. So I avoided relationships all the way until college, to be honest with you. Mostly because, out of fear, if I had to be really honest with you. I was afraid to just make a mistake, so I tried to avoid girls. I was attracted to them. They were very beautiful all around, but I just knew I don't want to take that chance. It's just too scary. Well, like Anna Marie said, you got to first learn about yourself. You got to really know what you wanted. What I really wanted early on was to be a family man, have a family. So in college, I met a lot of beautiful girls, smart girls. Some people like Carl would tell me, like, why didn't you ever marry an engineer or something? I'm like, I met so many of them. The problem is a lot of them were too much like me, and and there was nothing wrong with that, but the problem is when I would talk about families with them, a lot of the young girls I met in school were like, I don't want children. I want to work. I want to build stuff and do this. And I'm like, so do I, but I want kids. Well, I don't want kids. So I'm like, yeah, they're not compatible. Like, I wanted children. I wanted to start a family. And anyways, everybody I met in school, a lot of the young ladies, they were just not compatible. So opposites attract, I think, is true to some extent, but the foundation has to be the same. And the foundation, I think, that's most important is your religious views, your core identity. And for me, my identity I take is based upon my family, my children, and the wife component. I had to find that, and I didn't find it, to be honest with you. When I started deciding to date, I made all the wrong decisions. And I thought I was being smart about it, but I didn't. That's just the honest truth. When I finally said, you know what, Lord, I'm not going to look for a woman no more. I'm not going to look for no one. You're going to do it. It was April 16th when I got baptized. I had a prayer that night, and it was one of the first times I prayed where I was actually just crying and praying. And it was just pretty much like, Lord, whatever doors you open, it's going to be, I'll go through. Whatever women you bring in my life, I'll decide to follow. I'm not going to look no more. I'm going to give up on that. A month later, I met Carla at the graduation ceremony, Stephen. She was I don't sing. I was at the graduation ceremony. She was graduating too, and she was my, the praise team singer, and they volunteered me to be a singer. And she told me this was her advice, have the mic. So I'm singing with the mic. So anyways, that was the first time I met her, and our intentions at first were nothing serious. You're just an acquaintance, a friend. But because of that friendship, I got to know more about her. And the things that Carla shared to me were things that all my years in college, it's not that much, it's just 4, but I never met a girl like her, because she talked about things that most young girls in universities would not talk about, like, oh, I want to be a Sabbath school teacher, I want to do this and that, when I have my kids, they're going to be in there. And I never heard anyone talk like that. Even in this church, some of the girls I knew, no one was talking about, oh, in a few years when I finally get married and have kids, I want to be a Sabbath school teacher. Basically, all the things Carla does right now, she was already talking about them, like, in the future, I want to do this, this, and this. And you know, when those things were being said, I was just listening. I was not talking. I was just receiving this information. I'm like, you know, Lord, this is a person I would like to marry. If it's meant to be, you initiate the rest. I'm not gonna pursue her and like make things happen. And I can't explain it. It's hard, but it just worked. Like when I took a step back, God brought us closer together. And my first entire year with her, to be honest, like how relationships are so impactful, it was 100% long distance. I didn't really physically was near her for over a whole year. And that was something about me, knowing about yourself. I'm a person that has to be close and be very physical. Like not being next to someone, I feel separated. So I knew that God was in that relationship because for a whole year, there was separation, but it worked. So anyways, the point I'm trying to get to here is every decision you make, there will be an impact, especially when it comes to a partner. And all the best things that happened in my career have been with Carla. Before her, things were never perfect. And when she came in, things started clicking. And it's hard to explain until you experience it. And some of it really is just kind of a supernatural thing. People may say, oh, it was just, you got lucky. Well, I think it was just, when you put God first and you let Him lead you, His promises are true. He will keep to His word. And He gave me a wife. He gave me beautiful children. And we're not perfect, but things are better than I think they would have been if I would have just done it 100% my way. So that's all I have.
And I'll say mine in 30 seconds. She helped me to be less competitive. She also, by helping me be less competitive. So at that point in time, I wanted to be top of class, best academic, best in sports. I learned all my competition from sports. And I took it with me into academics. And when meeting her, she helped me, being less competitive helped me put things in the right perspective. I'm trying to touch people. I'm trying to serve people. I'm trying to represent Christ. Not be the best doctor, be the most on the cover of the magazine. So she helped me with that, which was important at that point in my career to have the correct perspective and to use character, not accolades. And the other thing was, because of the way that we met, we were different at spiritual standpoints. She helped me know the importance of a godly character at all times, because I knew she was watching me, and her family was watching me. And that's something that impacted my career. And she knows this, I take this into my office to this very day. To every place I am, I try to represent Christ at all times, and she knows that. So, and that's because of my relationship with her. So those are the two things that impacted me. I think the last thing was long distance. We were long distance for 3 years. 3 years, and that's very hard. It focused me. I got to make sure I get my career together and think about, is this the woman I'm trying to marry? And whenever she's here, I have to focus on her. So it helped me focus for us to be long distance and to trust God during that time of long distance. So that's it. But one thing you all, this is our second year. Thank you so much, Rudy and Ashley and Stephen and Rennie and Inga. They're the veterans. Anne-Marie and George, and yeah, those are the new people on the block. So hopefully y'all enjoyed it, and you know what some of us do in our careers. We'll keep supporting y'all, and thank you so very much. And let's have a little word of prayer, and we can head out. Yes.
He would like to speak to you maybe next Sabbath about your job.
Well, can we have Stephen say that again in the microphone so they can hear it online?
Yeah, I was saying it doesn't have to take this for you to, ask questions about, your career path. So that after today, you know what each, one of us do. So if it's something that is in the field that you're going through, leverage that and ask questions. Personally, I'm open. If you want to ask me any questions regarding computer engineering, computer science, just please reach out.
Let's close with prayer. Dear Father in heaven, thank you so very much for all the many blessings you've given to us. We thank you for the hearts and the characters that you've given to every single one of us, the individual personalities, the dreams and desires. But we ask that you continue to remind us that your Holy Spirit will give us what you wish for us if we trust in you. And help these young people to trust you, and help them while they're walking, while they're giving their absolute best every single day for their career, that they continue to not just look to this world, but they continue to look up and to look towards your soon coming. May they be in the Word every single day. Thank you so very much for all you've done for us. This is my prayer in your Son's precious name. Amen.